Hey guys, it's Adam. Man, I'll tell you what, 2026 is flying by, and yes, it hasn't been quite what we were expecting when it comes to living here in the Mile High City, but in this video today, I want to share with you guys 3 really specific Denver suburbs, neighborhoods that are getting a lot of attention still, despite it being a pretty unique real estate market here in Denver. So all 3 of these are going to be pretty interesting, I think. So looking forward to sharing them with you guys on a brand new episode of Living in Denver. Let's go. All right, guys, so today's gonna be all about these 3 Denver neighborhoods that are getting a lot of attention right now, and for good reason. You know, these are areas that I see as being really, really important places to consider if you're looking for long-term value, as well as being in a location that's really set up, not just for tomorrow, but for the long term. Before we get started though, all that info down below. If you have any questions as we go through the content today, feel free to reach out. I love connecting with you guys, but with all that being said, let's just jump right into it. So the first of these 3 is gonna be Broomfield. So if you're not familiar with where Broomfield is located, now when looking at Broomfield on a map, the first thing you're gonna notice is its awesome location in proximity, not just to Boulder, but also to Denver. It really is perfectly positioned right between the two. So if you are potentially looking at jobs up in the Boulder area, or maybe you're just coming out to Denver because you want a little bit more of that mountain lifestyle where you have access immediately out your door and can hit up hiking trails and mountain biking in an afternoon after work, well, that's achievable really anywhere that you live in Denver. But I'll tell you what, guys, man, if you live on the western side of town or just in places such as Broomfield, it becomes a lot more of a reality because it's not such a hassle to get out and do this stuff after work on a random Thursday night. So really, really cool location. Again, not just for proximity for work with Denver and Boulder, but also just easy access to the mountains for all the fun stuff that hopefully is the real reason why you're choosing to come out here to Denver, Colorado. Now, one other thing to point out about Broomfield is a lot of the homes, the inventory available right now, you're gonna find mostly newer construction. When I say newer, I'm referring to really anything in the last 25 years. There are homes that existed in Broomfield before that, but majority of the construction, majority of the development that happened in this area really happened in about 2000 and newer. So that's great if you're looking for homes that are a little bit more turnkey, where you don't have to worry as much about fixer-uppers and homes that might require a little bit of TLC. So if you are considering homes that are a little bit more updated, this could be a great option for you. Now, one other thing to point out involving real estate and Broomfield, I see this on a daily basis as I work with other buyers and viewers, maybe somebody just like yourselves. But one thing that's super common right now is that people are trying to live in Boulder and they're just getting pinched. They're getting priced out of the entire market because it is incredibly expensive in most people's opinion. You think about affordability being one of the biggest challenges right now, not just here in Denver, but really across the entire country. And places like Boulder have such a high median home price that it really has become out of reach for a lot of people. So that makes Broomfield even more desirable because it is really that perfect kind of meeting point where you're not going all the way back to Denver homes. You're still in an area that's a little bit closer and more achievable to get to Boulder within about a 15 to 20 minute drive, but you're not in the heart of Boulder, which again, sees an even higher price point. So if this is something that's kind of been frustrating to you when it comes to affordability and just the housing prices in Boulder, Broomfield might just be what you're looking for. Now, one last thing before we move on, I went to college up at Boulder, University of Colorado, go Buffs. And one thing that I loved about Broomfield specifically was just the fact that, I would frequently drive through Broomfield on my way to Denver because there's a highway known as Highway 36, and it's a really, really efficient highway. In fact, I'd say it's one of the best roads in all of Denver, and it's just this perfect diagonal road that connects downtown Denver up to Boulder. And what I loved about Broomfield when I was going to school back in the early 2000s is how this Broomfield area back then really was just commercial. There's a lot of big corporate businesses. Interlochen, Vail Resorts had their headquarters there for a while, and also a great mall, the Flatiron Shopping Center Mall. But over time, it just really seen this completely change. It's really expanded into a lot more, not only single family homes, but a lot of mixed use. So a lot of apartments and condos that have retail on the first floor along with housing up above. And man, if you're looking for an area that just has walkability, there's a ton of trails, ability to walk to a lot of these restaurants that are all around that Interlaken and Flatirons Mall shopping center, and just a really cool area that's just different. And it really takes you just to kind of come out and see it in person to understand what I'm talking about. But I definitely think Broomfield should keep on your radar. Again, if you want that proximity to Boulder, as well as Denver, and just a little bit more mountain type feel. Some of the best views in all of Denver, in my opinion, when you're looking out to the western slope. Boulder, Flatirons, just awesome. So just had to kind of throw that in there because it really is a special place, and I hope you guys check it out. All right, so with that being said, now let's just jump right into the second neighborhood that's getting a lot of attention right now in 2026, and this is gonna be Littleton. And yes, I do a lot of videos on Littleton, and part of that is because I do live on this side of town, but man, I live over here for a reason, and I'm just so passionate about Littleton and the southwestern side of Denver that I wanna make sure anybody else looking, maybe viewers like yourselves, also put this on your radar because I love it on this side of Denver. So let's just first look at it again on a Google map to compare it to where it was with the first neighborhood, Broomfield. So with Littleton, what you're gonna notice is it's gonna be a little bit further to the south of Broomfield. In fact, Littleton is really one of the larger southwestern neighborhoods, suburbs of Denver, and in a different way, but also kind of a similar selling point to why I love Broomfield. Littleton also has pockets that are very closely located to the western slope in the mountains. So you have that same benefit that you do with Broomfield, where you're able to get out and enjoy the mountains, go for a mountain bike ride, or maybe a nice hike or a run after work, and it's achievable because you live on this western side of town. So I know I'm a broken record here, but man, if you guys do have aspirations and you really want to be in a location in Denver where you can do this kind of stuff on a regular basis and not just plan it for the weekends, man, Littleton, Broomfield, some of these areas that again are on the western side are just such a better bet in my opinion. And with Littleton, a lot of other stuff going for it. So first off, as you can see, it's only about a 20 to 25 minute drive to downtown Denver. I make this commute on a regular basis, and one thing that I do really like about this specific commute to downtown is you have the ability to take Highway 85. It's also known as Santa Fe, and it's just a road that is not I-25, which is the one that gets so bogged down with really bad traffic, really at any point throughout the day. It just depends on kind of the luck of the draw. So with I-25, also being a north-south road, similar to Santa Fe that I'm talking about, you just have the benefit when you're on this side of town, the western side, that you can take Santa Fe instead, usually a little bit quicker, a little bit more, less painful of a commute to downtown. And I've just really, never had much issues at all. And I take this on almost a daily basis. Now, unlike Broomfield, Littleton has a lot of homes and a lot of neighborhoods that are more mature. So a lot of homes that were built a little bit earlier, the 1990s, 1980s, but you're also gonna find a lot of the same inventory of newer construction. In fact, one of the best master plan communities in the entire state of Colorado is located here in Littleton, and that's gonna be known as Sterling Ranch. And it's really cool because it's located a little bit further southwest even from where I'm at, and it's got amazing views of Roxborough, really fun rock formations that kind of look like red rocks, as well as just a really good location for golfers, anybody that might be working at Lockheed Martin, as well as anybody that just wants to be on that southern side of town, a little bit less going on when it comes to, rush hour traffic, that kind of stuff. You just feel a little bit more removed once you get home for the day. Now, I do get a lot of buyers and just people relocating out here that ask me, they say, Adam, that just seems like it's too far away from Denver. I'm worried about that, that drive on a daily basis to go from my home in Littleton all the way to downtown Denver, or what if I need to even go further north from downtown into areas like Thornton or Northglenn? And yeah, I would say that's probably the one thing that needs to be considered. If you're driving all the way up north of downtown Denver on a daily or weekly basis, that could end up being, 45 minutes or even a little bit longer. So, if you're doing that all the time, that is going to get a little bit old. But I would just push back and say that, this day and age, you're potentially going to have a drive like that almost anywhere you are in Denver, just depending on what kind of construction's going on, what kind of traffic, all that kind of stuff. So I'd say the most important thing is really just understanding what kind of lifestyle is going to exist in that part of Denver, and choose that as your primary reason for being in that part of town. And for Littleton, as well as kind of for Broomfield, one of those big selling points is going to be a little bit more removed from the metro area, which is going to give you a little bit more of a nature, a little bit more of a mountain type feel. And once you get back home, you're going to feel like you are a little bit more, just at ease. At least that's the way that I feel. All right, so with that being said, now let's just jump into the third spot in Denver that I think is worth checking out, definitely having on your radar, because this one is one of the most popular right now in all of Colorado when it comes to areas that people are moving to, where a lot of development is happening, and just an area that I can see definitely on the horizon as being only more and more popular, only more and more valuable and desirable. And this area is going to be Castle Rock. So Castle Rock is also on the southern side of Denver. In fact, you're really gonna not hit Castle Rock unless you're being intentional, unless you're driving purposefully further south, even from Littleton. Oftentimes, as people that are commuting or just taking a trip down to Colorado Springs is when they'll see Castle Rock. So Castle Rock is just a little bit to the south of areas like Castle Pines. Very, very nice homes, pretty pricey as well. But with Castle Rock, what's so cool is you really almost feel like you're in a different, complete town outside of Denver, almost like you're in a different city. And that's because it is a little bit more removed. You know, just the drive from Castle Rock to Denver, it's gonna be about a 45-minute drive, but a lot of people are okay with that because of this lifestyle that it provides. You really do feel like you're living in the mountains in parts of Castle Rock, as well as the surrounding areas like Larkspur, Monument. Just some awesome, awesome areas. And the reason I still wanted to put it on the list is because I actually have some clients, some friends of mine that I helped sell their house, which was in Aurora last year, and they sold with the intention of actually relocating to Castle Rock, and it ended up actually being about the same exact commute times for them to get to their respective jobs. So, as an example here, where they were previously living was in Southeast Aurora, and for their commute from there to go to the Denver Tech Center. It's one of the most popular areas for people that are still commuting and going into an office. Denver Tech Center was about a 25, maybe 30-minute drive. Well, it's actually about the same from Castle Rock, just a little bit different of a path that they're taking, but just long-winded way of saying that Castle Rock in the past used to feel like this far away place that really wasn't even a consideration. Well, nowadays it really is a possibility, and in fact, a lot of people are choosing it over other areas because it has that more peaceful feel. It's got a lot of really good stuff coming up in the horizon with new developments. There's a ton of new build communities, as well as some really good shopping. If you guys like the outlet stores, Castle Rock has one of the best in the entire state, so definitely check that out. And overall, I just think Castle Rock is going to be an area that's eventually going to almost be connected to Denver just because of all the other development going on. But you're just in an area surrounded by very, very beautiful scenic terrain, very highly priced homes in some of the neighboring areas like Castle Pines that I mentioned. And Colorado Springs is also becoming so popular these days that eventually Colorado Springs and Denver will almost just be this continuation of the same, metro area, and Castle Rock is just perfectly positioned kind of in between the two, where I think over the next 10-15 years that's going to be even more desirable. So definitely put Castle Rock on your list. All right, so let's close this one out just as a quick recap for each of these three areas that I think are worth putting on your radar for 2026. First off, let's talk again about Broomfield. If you want a really good combination of both location but also convenience, especially if going to Boulder on a regular basis is important to you, definitely I think Broomfield takes the #1 spot. Now, if Boulder is not important to you, but you do still want to be somewhat close to the mountains, easy accessibility to get up I-70 to go to the ski hills, as well as just being in an area that has a lot of maturity, meaning very established communities, some pretty high price points, but also just a lot of value potential, I would put Littleton as your #1 spot out of these three. And then last but not least, if you guys are really focused on the long term, on the vision of just where Denver's going in the next 10 to 15 years, I think Castle Rock, without a doubt, should take the #1 spot, because Castle Rock, man, guys, I'm telling you, it is not only an incredible place now, but once Denver continues to grow and get bigger and bigger, and Colorado Springs and Denver become even more connected to one another, when that happens, and it will happen, Castle Rock is just really positioned in a primo spot to be even more desirable whenever that does come. So you guys make the final decision, but all three of these are definitely cool spots. If you have questions about any of them, don't forget, reach out. I'd love to connect with you guys, share some additional valuable resources that I put together about all these areas, as well as tons of others. And then one last thing to close this one out Every single month, I host live, they're free, they're Denver homebuyer webinars. We just talk about what the current climate is going on right now here in Denver, what's happening with real estate, as well as just how people are still making home ownership a reality despite higher interest rates and a lot of this talk about affordability. So there's still ways to make it happen. A lot of our friends, a lot of our clients, a lot of viewers, just like you guys that have connected with us over the last several years, man, I'll tell you what, they're still succeeding. It just takes a different strategy, and you have to be very intentional to make this dream a reality. I'll see you guys on the next video. Have a great rest of your day, great rest of your week. Until next time.